Welcome to One Thought at a Time with Ian Travers, where we get curious about what makes us tick. We're here today with a guest who isn't just settled on one skill. Welcome, Anthony Sahota.
How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, great. Thanks for coming. We've tried to have a conversation, I think, ever since we met about middle of last year.
Of course, yeah.
So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come here today.
No, it's a pleasure to be here.
So let's kick it off. Tell us what you do.
So currently, I am an actor, a singer, and racing driver. I own an agency as well, so I also offer opportunities for other actors in the acting space.
Yeah.
And yeah, I sort of balance being a business owner, being a self-employed artist, actor, performer, and I jump in the cars when I can, anytime I can, really. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
So as we said, not just happy with just one skill,
no.
You're kind of stuck in them up there.
Yeah.
So what would be really interesting to explore then is what was the journey? So how did you get to the person that's on the sofa?
Wow, good question. I mean, it's been, when I look back now, I feel like it's been quite a big, long journey. It hasn't been that long, but it felt like a lot's happened in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
But in a nutshell, I started off as a kid with big dreams.
Yeah.
My mum was a real big driving force in my life. In fact, she still is. She's if you were to meet my mum, she's like me, but a million times more.
Yeah.
She does a million times more things than me as well. But she's a big driving force, and to be honest, when I was younger, it all kind of started from that. I just wanted to sort of make sure that when I grew up, I was doing the right thing, and doing the right thing is doing stuff that I truly wanted to do and what I loved.
Yes.
I'm a strong believer in, kind of similar to into what you think, is like I want to do stuff that gets me up in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I really do believe that if you do things that you're passionate about, it's very cliche, but if you do things that you love, you will be vaguely successful. And you can't really define success either in that sort of. Successful doesn't mean you have to be super rich or super wealthy. It just means successful is like you're happy within yourself. So I started off just like a kid that had big dreams, and I went and studied at uni. But before that, I was always dancing and singing in choirs, and I was trying to find myself. I used to play the drums, so I played the drums, picked up the drums. I started a band.
Right.
I started singing and songwriting, and I sort of released my first song when I was like 12.
Yeah.
In my band called Deserted Dreams with my good friend Toby Wilson. Hopefully he'll watch the podcast as well.
Brilliant, great.
And then I sort of found a passion for music and performing. And at the same sort of time, I had this other passion for driving. So I went and shook my mum, was like, "Mum, please take me karting. Can I have a try go karting?" And I went karting, and cut long story short, I was really good at it. And it was something that in my blood, I thought, I want to continue on doing.
Yeah.
Due to certain circumstances, I couldn't continue on, basically due to funding.
Yeah.
But I used to do a bit of racing at Thruxton.
Okay,
And then sort of skipping another beat, just before I went to college, I ended up getting my pilot's license. So I got my PPL to fly at Thruxton, but I got sponsored to do that. So I managed to basically, rather than racing, there was still an avenue to go down and do something that was still using my motor skills.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. And then from that balance of music, every weekend I was going out writing music, I was gigging, I was in a show, I was in a choir, I was out flying, and I was at school at the same time. So it was a really busy sort of childhood for me. I ended up going, I'm going to go to uni, because I couldn't afford to effectively go to study the advanced license to get your pilot's license, because it's like £100,000 or £150,000 in the UK.
Yeah.
So it was a big gap for me. So I went, I'm going to go to uni and I'm going to study. And I went to Kingston and did mechanical engineering. Right. So from then, it was a really amazing 4 years, actually. I really enjoyed it. The first year was tough. The second year was even more tough. And it just got worse as time went by. I thought, this might get easier, but it didn't.
So I'm curious. So looking at the background, and I can relate to some of this about bands, because I used to, be in bands and stuff.
Yeah.
And I went to do engineering.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is, and actually hearing you say that now, what made you choose engineering?
I think it was a mixture of passion for everything that moves, like mechanical things. I was a kid that didn't just have, I had one focus, and that was when I was in a band. I love music. I wanted to be a drummer and a singer. That was what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a singer and a drummer. But as soon as I jumped into a car, and I could operate that car or I could operate the cart, I realized that, oh, wait a minute, this is where my heart lies. You know,
Right.
this is really where my heart lies.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to try everything I can to try and learn more about that. And I was pretty much a strong believer in, if I can't do it now, I'm going to try and learn as much as I can around the subject. So going and doing engineering for me was a great sort of happy medium.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I was like, I might be around the machinery. I might understand how it works. I might understand how the industry works. So for me going to do engineering, it was kind of like, let me learn a little bit more about the industry first. Let me learn how these machines are put together.
Yeah.
And when it comes to piloting them or getting the opportunity to drive them, or you know, then I can be a little bit more in tune and connected to the machines.
So when you just skipping back again, so you know the dream, you know the young kid with the dream. What at that point? What was the dream? What were those dreams?
Before, I mean, the dreams for me were, I'm just gonna excel in anything I do. I just wanted to give my all, give 100% effort and see where it went.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily have like an end goal.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that at that age I had an end goal.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do what I was passionate about, and that was music, acting, and racing.
Right.
And I said to myself, whatever kind of direction I might go, it might be a bit of a rough road trying to find it out.
Yeah.
Like going to uni, I might find this is not for me, or I might find, you know, this route in music's not for me, or the industry's not how I quite like it. So yeah, I guess it all stems back to that. Like I didn't really have an end goal. I just wanted to do what I was super passionate about and sort of let the rest.
Let it take shape.
Let it take shape, yeah, and let that good energy kind of just spread, yeah.
So somewhere along the journey, Let It Shine happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a wild.
So tell us a bit about what happened there.
So I was studying at university.
Yeah.
4 years. On my graduation day, little did I know, honestly, didn't have a clue. Gary Barlow popped out, literally popped out of this hidden wall. And I tell people to this day, and they don't believe me. They go, "You must have known." And the truth is, Ian, I really didn't know about it.
Well, I've seen the video on YouTube.
Yeah.
And your face.
Well, I took out my...
you got your...
I took my own phone out. Then I realised there was a whole BBC film crew, like filming my reaction. So it was an experience. Yeah.
And so, what was that experience like?
I mean, it was humbling. It was massively humbling. I'll be honest with you. I took a lot away from it.
Yeah.
I was young and I'd never performed on a stage that big before.
Yeah.
With those caliber of people.
Yeah.
The thing about the show, it was a feel-good show. So they always told us, we're never going to make you like feel or look unprofessional.
Yeah.
We're never going to say something and do something opposite.
Yeah.
Kind of like other platforms do.
Yeah.
So we're hiring you and we're putting you on TV as a professional.
Yes.
So I had a good feeling from that. I skipped a few audition steps because I was what they call a secret hit. So I featured on there. I didn't actually audition.
Right.
They found me online through my YouTube videos and everything like that, and then sort of scouted me and then somehow contacted my family, my mum. And my mum was like, "Oh yeah, you should come to his graduation and surprise him." And like my mum's the worst at keeping secrets as well. So for her to keep that secret, I really don't know how she did it. It was quite an experience. But yeah, I did the show. I was on the show for about, I think, 3 to 4 months.
Was that a pivotal point? Was it a...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it gave me a platform to express myself. But at the same time, it made me realise that the industry is also very fickle.
Yeah.
It will suck you in.
Yeah.
And at any time it wants, it can spit you back out. And that's sort of the time that I realised that I need to make the most of my time here.
Yeah.
And it was a big pivotal moment for me in my young sort of performing career, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to take every opportunity that comes my way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go at it and attack it with 100%.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of people get this opportunity, especially people from my background.
Yeah.
And at the time, what brown or Indian / Pakistani / mixed, singer or performer was out there? None.
Yeah.
So I in my head, I was like, I need to make the most of this.
Yeah.
And after the show, it was great. I mean, people recognised me, and I got loads of different opportunities. I ended up doing, Aladdin in Dubai and doing loads of really cool shows, and I did a tour after that as well.
Yeah.
So my life was really busy and non-stop. And but it did humble me, because I took it in my stride, and I said to myself, I want to take every opportunity that I can. I'm going to try and learn as much as I can in this short period of time, because you never know, tomorrow that I might get spat back out again.
Yeah.
I really might. I'm still in that, I'm still doing that now to this day. So quite lucky in that
and
sense.
busy doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What would be your hope for people who see the journey that you've had? Do you ever think about whether you might inspire other people to follow?
Yeah, well, Ian, that's sort of the reason why I started Ignitus Management. I started my agency on the back of that because the experiences that I've had have been amazing. Yeah. And I've seen people not take advantage of those moments, being around me in the moment. And I've also tried to do that, take as much advantage and utilise sort of the good energy as I could, basically utilise that moment as well as I could. Yeah. And I'd started my agency to try and give the opportunities to other people in a similar boat who just want advice. Yeah. If people come up to me and say, "Ant, like how do I go on a TV show and will it help me?" And I'm like, "Of course, just try it. What have you got to lose? Yeah. As long as it's a feel-good show and you feel like it's something that's going to launch your career, and you're very grounded in your approach, and you make sure that you take time to listen and actually just consolidate. Yeah. Like you'll be fine." And you can always take it as an experience. Life is a big experience. It's a massive roller coaster. Going back to that's sort of lesson that you taught when I first met you, Ian, is the fact that your mental health is the most important thing. Yeah. In fact, funny enough, a lot of people that I went on the show with, you could see their mental health declining because it's such a big shift in dynamic, going from like a normal person to all of a sudden being on TV and you have all this pressure on you, and you have people watching you, and you have people saying bad things about you online, and then people just commenting about how you look or how you sound, but none of them see what's going on in the actual moment or behind the scenes to get to that point.
Well, it's interesting. So I heard, again, I was watching something on YouTube, a guy called Simon Sinek, and he mentioned a phrase which I'd not heard before. Right. And he preferred to use the term mental fitness.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I thought, I like that because, we talk about physical fitness a lot. Yeah. So with physical fitness, you do a lot of training.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well, and that kind of then means that for mental fitness, then you need to train.
Yeah. It does make sense, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Yeah.
And it isn't, and that's probably why people put it off, because it's like the gym. When I'm a PT, people, I'm not strong, or I can't be fit straight away. And it's not about that. Yeah. I can't. Yeah. And it's that typical thing of people say, "I can't do it." They roll themselves out before they've even done it. And it's like you have to build the fitness up. You need to be good at something. You need to build that muscle memory. You need to build those motor skills. You need to build your confidence. You need to feel the endorphins. You need to feel the passion, feel the fire. That's what it's all about. It's finding that bit of something inside of you, and trying to ignite that flame is ultimately what we all have to do. And I think a lot of that time, that flame dies out before it even gets a chance to actually fully show what it can do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in your performance space as well, there's fear can play a huge role, can't it?
Massively, yeah. Yeah, fear is the biggest thing for performers. Like a lot of performers actually, and they do say, I'm not scared of being on stage. It depends on sort of what angle you do things, but definitely being on stage is a vulnerable thing. Yeah. When you're on stage, you are entertaining thousands of people at once. It could be, or even if it's 2 or 3 people, it's just as scary. You're there, you're vulnerable, you're on stage, you're being watched. And I think a part of that is having that inner confidence and inner belief and fire and flame inside of you. And ultimately, you get that from being confident and by rehearsing and making sure that you're sort of, you're not ruling yourself out on the get-go. You're practicing and you're getting better and better, and then you have that sort of confidence when you go out on stage. So
I wonder if, just thinking here about parallels between acting and performing and the motorsport piece as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a massive connection. I found when I get into the car, I'm very much in the same state of mind as when I'm on stage, because you don't notice everybody else when you're on stage. Yeah. You also are very focused, and you're hyper focused when you're in the car. Yeah. You pick up on subtle details, which is very similar to when you're on stage. You pick up on subtle details of how the other actor has said his line or said her line, or the mannerisms in which they've said it, or if something happens and someone corpses on stage and it's a funny moment, you try to keep it together. Like, there's loads of different scenarios where that is it connects to motorsport. I mean, it's a different thing physically. It's physically very different.
I suppose it's a performance, isn't it?
But it is performance, yeah, absolutely. And also in and out of the car. You know, you as a driver, you want to have, there's also an element to having not necessarily charisma, but you want to have a natural, you're there doing what you love. And when you jump out the car, you're full of endorphins, you're full of adrenaline. And like little things like back in, the most sort of memorable F1 drivers are the ones that are the most characteristic, the ones that got out the car and they had all this flamboyancy. And I think that's a performance. So there is a connection in. Yeah, there is, for sure.
That's really interesting, that.
Yeah.
We've talked a bit about sort of, mental health, mental fitness. What do you find yourself doing as a matter of course to look after yourself in that space?
Definitely fitness. Fitness for me is absolutely key, and actually anything that I preach on my social media about mental health or well-being it stems from fitness.
Yeah.
Because when you're moving and you're getting out the house and you're giving yourself a purpose, if that just, you don't need a life's purpose. A lot of people are still trying to find their purpose in life, and a purpose can shift, but ultimately a day's purpose can be, I'm gonna be true to myself. I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna push myself, and I'm gonna get out there. I'm gonna try and do a bit of fitness. And for me anyway, and I know it has very contagious effect. The gym, that is a big part of keeping my mental well-being fine. Because for me, sat in front of the TV doesn't really do much. I need to go and do things. I need to expend my energy. I need to feel good about myself, and doing that, fitness is key.
I think there's a huge link, and I know it's being more and more is being understood about it all the time, but the whole mind-body linkage, because when you do exercise, I mean, I've never ever come in from a run not feeling good.
Yeah. Why do you do that, Ian? Why
do I do it?
Yeah.
It's my release.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It is exactly that, and it
keeps you looking young as well, for the stage.
Well, yeah, I'm trying. But it is interesting, because even that thing about purpose, I find, when I run, I almost have to agree with myself before I go out. What is this run?
Right. Okay. So you find that bit of purpose in there? Yeah.
It's because sometimes I'll run to be in the moment, and it's just a run to smell the smells and hear the sound.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go run to process a problem.
I see.
Right. So yeah, I think your point about having a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's you find that purpose every day. People do speak about the bigger purpose of life, or finding your life's purpose.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I think it's very important to have those little subtle, think about, why am I going to go do this, and what's the reasoning behind that. And I think that also gives you a bit more of a two-way mind as well.
Do you find that motorsport, when you're actually in the car, is that a release?
Oh, massively. It's a hyper focus. You're focused on a goal, and that is to try and better yourself at every corner. And I think that's sort of a life lesson too. Right. I think you can take racing around a track in circles as a bit of a life lesson.
Yeah.
And on the weekends, it's kind of it is a release, because you get out of the car and you go, you know what, I've learned something. And for me, that is the biggest release ever. And winning or not winning, or driving 5 laps before your car blows up, or not, it's still a massive release. And just to get to that point as well, a lot of work. It takes a lot of work for all of these drivers to get on the grid.
We were talking about this. I mean, we've talked about stress and mental well-being. I mean, that's a huge pressure, isn't it, on anyone in motorsport? It's
massive, and it's actually it can make or break what you really truly are passionate about. Because when you find it so hard to get into something, the barriers of entry are so difficult to get into. It can do this crazy thing in your mind, and it tries to put you off.
Yeah.
It tries to put you off what you've always dreamt about.
Yeah.
And there is a definitive moment there where you go, no, I've got to break through that. I've got to keep going. And I think that's a life lesson again. So it's like, life is up and down. Life's going to throw you lemons, and you have to try and get around them and jump over them, and also pick yourself back up. And I think motorsport is exactly the same principle. When your car breaks and blows up, you've done all that work in the background to try and even get on that grid. Like my first race at Silverstone last year, it took me a tremendous amount of effort to try and get on the grid. I didn't even get to drive. All my sponsors were there, my people that were there supporting me, and the build-up was intense, and then all of a sudden the car blows up and you managed to get out. And it's a life lesson on picking yourself back up, having a strong mentality, and saying, you know what, I'm going to move forward.
See, again, I'm guessing that there's probably some parallels between from your acting as well, your ability to sort of channel in emotional passion?
Oh, massively. You know, you're in the car and you're hyper-focused and you're thinking about being and, you know, becoming the best version of yourself in that moment and performing to a high standard.
Yeah.
And when you're on stage, it's the same thing. You know, you're focused on being a character that isn't you. You know, you're hyper-focused on trying to deliver a performance to an audience that doesn't know you and is going to have, you know, you're trying to storytell, you're trying to create a story. And motorsport's the similar thing, you know, there's a story and you pretty much are a storyteller in motorsport as well, from your lows to your highs. So it's very well connected.
So I've got a couple of questions which I'd like to ask you as we kind of start to approach the final lap.
Okay. The final lap of the
podcast. So the first one, it's one that we've asked everyone during the first series as well, is just imagine for a moment that we can conquer time travel and you could write yourself a note.
Okay.
Which you could leave for the young Ant Sahota to find.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what you know now, what do you think you might write?
What's for you won't pass you.
Oh, again.
What's for you won't pass you.
Oh, I love it.
And that's applicable for me in every aspect of life. I think, yeah, it's for me it's a very powerful thing, and I do think like when things don't go your way, you pick yourself back up. Something will be for you, and I think if you take that mentality going forward in life, I think it will help you get by, 100%.
I love that. New for this series as well, we've asked each guest to leave a question.
Okay.
Now this one...
That's interesting. Oh.
So you get a chance to leave one shortly as well. So the question that's been left for you is, if not now, when?
Wow. If not now, when? As soon as I leave this podcast.
So, you know, is there something which is there a something which, you know, do you think you'd like to do? I don't know. However that applies. If not now.
For me, I think that would stem and connect with me in the motorsport world.
Right.
Like I still haven't achieved what I want through. I'm only just starting, really. Yeah. I'm only just the wheels are only just starting to turn.
Literally.
Yeah. So Ian, for me, like I'll the biggest thing is like taking every day as it comes, but pushing for that. You know, for me, it's like now. Yeah. It's now and ever, really. Time, you don't ever get time back.
Right.
It's one of the things of life that you don't ever get back. You buy a fancy car, you buy clothes, you buy this, you go on a holiday, you can go on another one. But time you never get back. So you have to take every moment as it comes and you have to push for what you really want. And I think right now, my mindset is really trying to push that side of motorsport for myself and give myself as much opportunity as I can to even just be on the grid and perform and feel good about myself and be part of a team. And for me, it's now or never. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Right now. Right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
So right now,
yeah.
What do you think you would like a future guest to answer?
That's actually a really good question. I'm not really too sure. I need to have a good think about this. Yeah, it's a good question. Because I don't actually have the answer for it. Right, if you could be an anomaly, hold on a minute, I can't even say the word. If you can be an anomaly, can you help me say that, Ian, for a sec? An anomaly.
Yeah, an anomaly.
Yeah. What industry would that be in?
Oh, okay.
So like, if you could be different, so it's in the scale of if you could stand out, in what scale would that be in?
Right.
Would that be to make a difference? Would that be in motorsport? Would that be in helping people with their mental health? Like not following the norm.
Right. I like it. So if you could be an anomaly in what area?
Yeah.
And thank you ever so much for coming on.
No,
today.
I mean, honestly, I've had a great time. It's my first ever podcast as well. So
fantastic.
It's my first ever time like doing something like this. So.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been One Thought at a Time with Ian Travers and our guest this time, Ant Sahota. Please do like or subscribe and look at our back catalogue through your podcast provider. And if you have been, thanks for listening.